Your Honor. You may proceed. Through this door is horror. Through this door are bullets, blood, brains, and bodies. Through this door, one guy who felt as if he had lost his career, lost his love life, lost his purpose, came to execute a plan in his heart for his life, but for 2.5 months in his mind. On a cool July night a few years ago, about 13 miles from where we sit right now, 400 people filed into a box-like theater to be entertained. And one person came there to slaughter them.
Hello, 911, where's your emergency? Sir, I can't hear you. What address? Sir, I can't hear you. Give me the address again. There's gunshots. What address? Say it loud.
The man that came there that night, covered head to toe in armor to protect him from any injury. The man who brought with him 4 weapons and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. He's in the courtroom with us today. He's seated right over here. His name is James Egan Holmes. And on July 20th, 2012, he tried to murder a theater full of people to make himself feel better, and because he thought it would increase his self-worth. Now, what I'd like to do is just talk to you about victims in this case. What I'd like to do is to focus us on those who were most affected by this conduct. But here's the thing. He made so many victims that if I were to stand here and merely spend 1 minute per victim telling you about them, about how they got to the theater that night, and about what he did to them, I would be here for almost an hour and a half. I can't do that. But what I can promise you is that before this case is over, you will hear from or about every one of them.
I want to describe for you a little bit about what our presentation during the course of this trial will be. Because the story Mr. Brockler told you is not the whole story. It's only a part of the story. My name is Daniel King, and I, along with my colleagues, Catherine Spangler, Tamara Brady, Rebecca Higgs, Kristen Nelson, represent Mr. James Holmes. At the end of this trial, I too will stand before you, and all I will ask, all I'm going to ask, is that you accept reality. A reality that the prosecution has chosen not to accept because it doesn't suit their purposes. The reality is mental illness. But I'm concerned. And I think we need to talk about that further. The magnitude of what took place in that theater as a human event is impossible for us to even comprehend. The suffering and the pain that have been endured and continue cannot be quantified and cannot be qualified. And I'm not going to try to do that. We're social creatures. And when something like this happens, it strikes down deep inside our human core. We feel sad. We feel angry. We want to stand for our way of life, for our community. The ripples of effect of this event extend out in every direction. To the community, to the first responders, to the treatment providers, and mostly to those whose lives were irrevocably changed or ended, or those who had loved ones whose lives ended just because they chose to attend a movie. These feelings are human and natural and right for us to feel as human beings. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm concerned because that river runs deep. And you're not just human beings, you're now jurors. And you've sworn an oath. And part of that oath, as the judge just instructed you, is that neither sympathy nor prejudice may affect your deliberations. I don't know how you're going to do that. You're being asked to set aside fundamental human emotions. I don't know how you're going to do that. But that's your task. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm concerned because as I stand before you now, I feel a great wave of pain and emotion from this community and from these victims. Such a flood of pain that nothing can stand in its way in this case. What I'm going to suggest to you through the course of this trial is that when the flood waters rise, the only thing to do is to move above the waterline together. There is the fortress of the law. Here is the fortress of the law. And here, in this space, you will make the decisions, the life-changing decisions that you're being asked to make. There is no room in the fortress of the law for hatred. There is no room for retribution or vengeance. The law commands that you decide one thing and one thing only, that you fairly and rationally consider all the evidence in the case or the lack of evidence, and you decide at the end of the day whether the prosecution has proven to your satisfaction beyond any reasonable doubt that Mr. Holmes was not insane when he stepped into that movie theater. Not whether mass murder is wrong, not how badly the victims were harmed, not about gun control, not about mental health treatment. Not here. Not here in the fortress of the law.